Let's get it popping. Hey, welcome out to another fun and exciting episode of Speak from the Couch. I'm your host, Rob Lee. We have back on the show with us this week my man, Chris Kane. Chris, what's up?
Back in the building.
Back in the building.
Yeah.
You know, Speak is all about expression and, staying true to that. Listen, comedy is a huge part of what we do.
Yep.
And I really wanted to lighten it up a little bit, bring Chris back on, and also with us today, very special guest, comedian Esther Ku from Last Comic Standing, MTV Girl Code, and a bunch of other amazing work that she's done. Esther, how you doing?
I'm good, Rob and Chris. How you guys doing?
Awesome.
Good.
Awesome.
Good.
Good to see you guys are alive and healthy.
Feeling good.
Yeah. Same to you.
Yes,
Thanks
I've
for
been
taking the time.
vigilant with my quarantine.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah? What does that look like, super vigilant?
Like I don't see anybody. You know what I mean? Like I see comedians like meeting up in person in studios for podcasts. And I'm like, man, it's risky. It's risky. You don't know where they've been. If they're podcast, like with Zoom, you don't need to meet up in person. It's
Right.
really not that important, you know?
Yeah.
So I've just been doing everything virtually and, I'm fine. Like I can read a book. I don't need to like go outside and go to a bar and get validation. I've had years of validation. I'm fine. If this quarantine lasts for a year, I'd be fine.
I think you're in the minority on the year thing. I think some people are like, I got one more week before things start getting reckless in these streets.
People are starting to crack. People are starting to crack.
You see it out here. Yeah.
I see that. And I see people who are like, I have a friend who just flew to New York back home because she was like quarantining with her family. And then she's like, all right, I'm done. I can't be with my parents anymore. Let me get back to my life. And it's like, you're flying right into the epicenter. And so people are cracking, but it's not the time to let your guard down.
Listen, I'm in California. We got white people out here protesting on haircuts and getting their nails done on the beach. And this is only, I don't know if you guys watch the news, but the beaches were basically closed in California. And people near like Huntington and like Newport Beach, like the richest part of California pretty much, they just were like, nah, we going to the beaches. We doing what we want to do. And so the governor was like, nah, we shutting the beaches down. And they started protesting. They were just like, we're not doing this. You know how much I pay for this house? I'm going to the beach. You can't stop me. And it's just thousands of people in the streets. And
Yeah, I get it. I get both perspectives, right? Because there's a big feeling of cabin fever right now because I've been locked down since this started here, right? And like a lot of us have been. But like you, Esther, I've been taking it really serious because, somebody in the house has, they have asthma. So I don't want to be responsible for them getting sick, inadvertently, or I don't want to get sick either. So we've just decided to take it very, very serious and lock it down really aggressively and utilize technology as best we can and just play it that way. But I get where this is a country that's founded on freedom, right? So it's hard to kind of, say, okay, we're going to go without freedom for a while. So Esther, how are you guys? Are you in the house with other people?
Yeah, I'm here with my boyfriend and then his kids come every other week. So sometimes I get a little anxious because I'm like, well, who is she fucking, right? Like, and I know I'm not the only one in this situation.
that's true.
Like if you have somebody with kids going back and forth to their mom's house or dad's house, it's like, I hope she's taking it as seriously as we are, but also out of my control. And what can I say? Like, well, if you're going to be fucking some dude, keep the kids there. You can't do that,
So do you think that she feels the same way? Like, I don't know what's going on over there.
Well, she knows what's going on over here. Like we've been, we take it seriously and we don't go anywhere. We don't do anything. So
if something pops up, it's on her.
Right. The cop. We know who to blame. I mean, but the thing is, you could get it from anywhere. Like, you could get it from, you know, cardboard, a package, who knows? So
that's true.
So it's just crazy times right now. I've been going through, okay, right next to my desk right here, I have like all my notebooks from like, this is just like not even a fraction of it, but I've been reading my old diaries from 23 years old, right?
Wow.
And this is the first time I've ever went back and started reading my diary entries.
What's the most shocking thing that's come out of the diary so far?
I was going for it. Yeah.
You know, I'm reading a lot of diary entries about, well, this guy hit on me, so here's how I rejected him. Who does he think he is? And, you know, I'm not going to just take my clothes off because he wants to, like, do a photo shoot with me. Like, I could pay for my own photo shoot. Like,
I feel like your diary is a plot of most porns. It's like, hey, you're too pretty to be wearing clothes. What? Take those off. I got a camera in my room. It's like, that's not. We're 20 years old, dude. Like, step your life game up.
But you know, I'm also like surprising myself. I'm like reading back to when I was 23 and when I first started comedy, and like how happy I was to have found comedy. And all the interactions with all the comedians in Boston of like, and then this comedian said this to me, and how everything meant so much to me. Like any little, you know, interaction, any comedian who helped me out to put me on stage, and I was just so grateful. And just to read, like, you know, my enthusiasm for having found comedy, it's almost like reviving me again, you know?
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
That is beautiful.
No, I think a lot of comics are feeling that same rebirth now. Like if you've been on stage and been on the road for months and months and months, now you have 2 months of just not being able to get out there. You go back to your material, you write some new stuff, and then when you get on the road, you're like you got that zeal again, and you can't wait to get on stage and drop these bars you've been writing for the last 6 weeks, getting every little part of the joke perfectly executed. So it's like, man, this new joke gonna kill it when I get back on. But yeah, it's just it's a dope feeling.
Yeah, performing is just one aspect of being a comedian. We could, you know, if we're holed up at home for 2 months, or who knows how long this is going to last, we could, you know, be productive by writing or reviewing stuff that you've written, or reviewing videos or audios of your performances to kind of tweak your performances so that the next time we do hit the stage, you know, it's fire.
Get reconnected with that love and passion that we all kind of share. That's awesome. So you know, besides rejecting guys in the diary, let's go back to the diary for a little bit.
Let's try to get off it for a second. Yeah, it's just a bunch of guys. Like, tell us the deep, dark stuff in the diary, not the part where you was just curbing dudes left and right. Like, where's the parts when you had tears in the pages when you were writing? We want to know about those memories.
I guess like just being depressed, like just being honest about, like, you know, I'm so depressed. I'm sitting in the parking lot of Bed Bath & Beyond right now. I'm going to buy myself a nice duvet cover because this winter is going to be real depressing. You know, I was living in Boston and it's going to be cold. And so I guess just seeing like the raw kind of emotions that I was feeling at the time, it just made me, it made me want to be diligent about writing in my diary more, you know, and that's what I've been doing every day. When I wake up, I just write, because you write stuff and your brain can only remember so much. And when I read back my diaries, I'm like, oh my God, I totally forgot that happened. Or I totally forgot that person even existed, or I haven't talked to that person in 15 years. You know what I mean? Like we interact with a lot of people and you forget. And I look back and I'm like, wow, I should really call that person.
So you started your comedy career in Boston. Like how was the scene there when you started?
It was really small, you know, because it was before podcasting became a thing. It was 17 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. So it was just very, you know, a small community of people, kind of like Miami, and people just helping each other. And when you're in a smaller market, it's easier, I think, to get stage time. Everybody kind of knows everybody kind of really quickly. Whereas when you're in New York, LA, it's so big, you don't have time to be nice to everybody. You know, and I wrote in my diary, like, you should write with everybody. Everybody has something good to add to your act.
It's naive. That's that young naive feeling where you
Yeah.
think that everyone is actually here to help you. It's like, man, they want to see me be a star. They want to see me be great, even if they fail. Like, so many nice people in the world. And then 2 weeks later, it's like, I hate that person. What's your name again? Dave? It's like, Dan. I got you.
Yeah. Just reading how naive I was, but I also was very like on guard and skeptical of like any guy who hit on me. I would just be like, no, I don't need love. I don't need a boyfriend. I don't need love. I'm focused on my career. And how like so insane I was. Yeah.
That is awesome. So you have other talents besides comedy, and let me clean that up a little bit. You see, you play.
Like, run that back. So I've seen you in a couple of films, not comedy related. And,
let me clean that up. Let me clean that up. So I've seen you play the ukulele. You use the ukulele in some of your comedy routines. Do you play other instruments as well?
Well, I'm learning the drums during quarantine. And I started out as a musician before I was a comedian. So I've always loved music. I love listening to music, playing music. That's why I'm fine. If this quarantine lasts for 5 years, I'm good, man. Like, I will sit here and learn every instrument. I know how to entertain. If I ever end up in jail, I'll be fine.
You can't play ukulele in jail. That's not how. It's like, if I play you this song, will you give me some cigarettes? It's like 2 songs for a pack. That's not how that goes in jail. Like, you're gonna be robbed. That's what's gonna happen. Like, that's how jail goes.
And I started this new YouTube show called Korean Teen, where I just do like a late night monologue, and then I do my own like rim shots to my jokes about the coronavirus, because I'm reading the news every day anyway, because it's like, how can you not? So while I'm reading, I'm like, let me just write jokes already. It's already, I just want to keep fresh with writing. So then I'm like, let me just post this on YouTube. And it's been really fun to be doing that.
We're living in really weird times, and the news has just been one crazy thing after another crazy thing for the last, I want to say, 3-4 years, 5 years maybe. How does the content play for your comedy?
It's almost appalling that there are even two sides. The fact that people want to reopen and people are on the side of the economy versus like on the side of people not dying, it's just, to me, it's just crazy. And so I think there's a lot to make fun of, the white supremacists who insist on opening back up the country, the rich people in Huntington Beach who just, want access to their beaches just because they're rich and they've never been told no before. It's just ridiculous how selfish people are being. So there's a lot to make fun of. So there's even more material now than ever.
2 episodes back, I had an opportunity to interview Fabio Tamburini in Italy. And they are, they've been devastated by this pandemic. But it's amazing how they've come together and really sacrifice right now. Like, they've taken it so seriously that they're reopening now, but gradually. And it's very thoughtful how they're doing everything. Everybody wears a mask. Nobody feels offended. Here we have people shooting people because they're telling them, hey, you need to wear a mask. It's just... The selfishness that we have here in the United States is at an all-time high, in my opinion. I've never seen anything like this.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, our country is just built on selfishness and independence and, everybody just look out for themselves and capitalism. So now, like, during a pandemic like this, it is really hurting us. I was one of the first people wearing masks. And then people would look at me, but I was like, I know in a couple of weeks, you guys are going to be like, where do I get a mask? Because the shit, they're not reading the news.
Right.
And I think, Americans felt silly at first wearing masks, but Asians, we've been wearing masks since the day we were born.
I was gonna say, you put a mask on, nobody was surprised. It was like, yeah, she's one of them.
Yeah, it's like
Look normal.
booties from our parents. Ew. Asians, we have smaller nostrils than Americans, right? Like everything on us is smaller, right? So like when you have smaller nostrils, the chances of droplets going inside your respiratory system, it is smaller than somebody who has bigger nostrils, because if these droplets are just living in the air and it's airborne, the chances of it going up somebody's nostrils who are bigger is a bigger chance. So it's like, you guys with your big American noses gotta be wearing masks more than we have to. My nose is tiny.
I'm glad you said American noses, because I thought you were going somewhere else. Big black African lips and noses. Like, all right, Esther, let's calm down. Let's keep this. Relax. Relax.
Maybe we're onto a new conspiracy here. This was meant for black people and big noses.
Well, it's not even a conspiracy. It's really just a health issue, Plus they say you should wear goggles and, glasses. I don't go that far, but it's like our eyes are smaller, and the chances of the droplets getting in my eye is smaller than your eye.
I'm not Dr. Fauci, so I really don't know how that really works, but I got to think that, listen, initially there was like, stay 2 feet away from people, and then that went into 6 feet away from people. But just looking at how quickly and how fast this thing spread, to me, that was like an arbitrary thing. Like, oh yeah, it could float around, but 6 feet, you're safe. To me, that's bullshit. Like, I mean, there's breeze, who's factoring in all these other, conditions?
Right, exactly. The wind can blow droplets towards you. It's crazy.
Can you remember like the most embarrassing episode you had on stage?
Yeah, I would say it was at Caroline's.
Oh.
I was opening for Donnell Rawlings, and
okay.
Right before I went on stage, Charlie Murphy came into the room, and I'd never met him before, but he's friends with Donnell. So he stopped by the show, but I was so like starstruck, and it made me nervous. When there's like a huge name in the room and you're about to go on stage and you're like, fuck, this is like a good opportunity, but also what if I fuck up?
Right.
And I let that what if I fuck up like take over my mind. So I went on stage and I just had the worst set ever. And I just wasn't even myself. I just lost it, and I was just pausing, and nobody was laughing. And at one point, one guy it was like just complete silence in the audience. At one point, I could hear one guy say, "This is terrible."
Oh.
That's awful. That's awful.
So, yeah, and I'm just standing there just waiting for them to like give me the light. And, I was so young too that at that point, you don't want to go your full set. When they say, hey, do 10 minutes, I wanted to do 2 minutes. And I'm like, let me just do my set and just run off. And then my manager was there too. And when I went to his office the next day, he was like, people pay to see these shows. You know that, right? And I was like, okay, I know I fucked up. Like, trust me, my bomb was already enough punishment. I don't need you to,
rub it in. Between LA, because you spend a lot of time in LA. You live over there part time, right?
Yeah.
So between the scene in LA, and Chris and I, we spoke about this a little bit last week. Between LA, Miami, Boston, like, can you tell me like the differences that you've experienced?
New York is just.
Oh, and New York. Forgot about New York.
New York is the place to be. You can't get as much stage time as you can in New York. There are fewer comedians in New York compared to stages than there are in LA. LA, it's like, comedians are like cockroaches. They're all over. Right? But New York.
It's a great analogy.
It's true.
I always tell people to move to New York because you just nowhere else can you get on stage 3 times a night. And you know, there's shows in every borough, on every night, and you can get on stage anywhere in New York. And there's so many stages, so many restaurants and bars doing shows. People in New York don't like to stay home. That's why it's been really hard for them, because it's like everybody in New York City is an alcoholic. They're in bars. They want to go to comedy shows. They want to, you know, go out and have fun and be out because their apartments are so tiny. Right. Whereas LA, it's harder to get audiences to come out. You know, they have a nice house, they have a backyard, they have nice weather. So I think New York is the place to really grind out.
So tell me about your experience with Miami, though, and how that stacks up, because, you know, it's interesting because we've been at it for a long time, and we're not a comedy specific show, but, you know, we appreciate and we really value the comedians coming through and doing their stuff, right? But, you know, we see a lot of the same comedians coming through doing the same material, and it gets really frustrating for me and for a lot of the audience. You know, and I've had candid discussions with a lot of the comics, like, listen, you know, because of the lay of the land, this, you know, you have to come with some different material, or, you know, we'll put you in a longer rotation.
Oof.
Yeah, you know, I mean, you just got to be honest with people, right?
We need to hear that, and that's a conversation that only helps us, you know. And don't be afraid to say that to any of us, because, you know, we all have a tendency to get lazy and not write new jokes, and plus it's tempting to do the jokes that you know work because you get a good response. But you say that to somebody, I think that helps us so much more than giving us a crowd that just laughs at everything we said 5 times on your stage already.
Right.
So you're actually doing the community a service by having that honest, tough talk with us.
It's a weird thing for comics too. Like you touched on, like you wanting the laughs is like the biggest thing. Like we feed off that's our gas. And if you tell a new joke, it's not polished yet, it's not worked out, it may eventually be funny, but it's not funny yet. And that speak because it was so, like, the spots were coveted. You're like, yo, if I'm gonna speak, I gotta bring it, because if they do a brand new set and they bomb, then they can't really come to you and be like, yo, Rob, what's up with that next show? It's like, bro, I saw your last set. What next show? Like, you need to leave for a month to come back. And so I got why a lot of dudes and girls would like do the same material, but that you, like Esther said, you don't grow as a comic doing that. And also you're sometimes trying to polish something up for like a bigger show. So I get it.
Right.
Yeah, it is tempting because your audiences, your shows are always packed. So it is risky to try out new material to such a big crowd that you have there. But I like that you're all for us, you know, trying out new material, because it's better to bomb with new material than for the audience, if they're there, you know, 3 times and hear the same comedian do the same jokes. It doesn't get old. Right.
And especially, you know, look, I don't know, I can't speak on behalf of every other show out there, or, you know, any other producer's mindset, but we, even for musicians, we'd rather you come and deliver your original work than do a cover. You know, we've developed a community down there that will be accepting and embrace new experimental work. And, you know, if it's not going to be like totally off the wall or super offensive, you know what I mean? The audience is really open to that. They're not going to heckle. They're not going to, you know, do anything like that. And I think we're really fortunate to have that culture in place, you know?
Well, also, since you guys have poets and you have musicians, like, it's not a strict comedy show. So I think that's even more reason for comedians to try out new stuff, because it's not like a poet necessarily is expected to get laughs. So if you say something and it's a new joke that you haven't really, you know, polished yet, is it the end of the world if that crowd doesn't laugh? You know, at least you're working on new stuff.
Right.
And Rob, you kind of set up a little segue, so I'm gonna take the opportunity to run with it.
Do it.
Talk about hecklers. Esther, I know your material because I've seen you perform many times. I'm sure you've been heckled before. Do you have like a good heckle story for someone who just came at you because you went too hard on stage?
You know, like I don't really get that many hecklers. Unless I'm doing like a bar show or like a strip club show.
Okay. It's like, I thought you elaborate on the strip club. We were waiting to hear more information about that. It's like, strip club show? Yeah, let's go. That's some good podcast material.
There's a strip club in Miami that tried to do a comedy show in the back room. And it just,
it sounds like a diary entry.
Take off your top. I'm telling jokes, sir. I'm telling jokes up here.
It was fine when the male comedians went up there because, who wants to see a guy get naked? But once I went up there, it was just like, what am I even doing here? Because these guys were just like, take off your clothes, so it just didn't work.
So at what point were you like, okay, these jokes aren't working?
That's the most money you made doing comedy that night. So I made $3,000 that night for a 7-minute set. It was awesome. Paid all types of rent, like student loan.
You've done private shows with us in the past, Esther, and I remember one. Now that we're talking about hecklers, I remember you went after one guy in the room, and this Chris, just to give you a sense of what it looked like. This was like maybe 30 people, if that, maybe 20 people, a show really targeted to our members and some VIP guests that we cater to here.
Okay.
And we had Esther in the lineup. And Esther, I don't know if you remember, but there was one guy, really arrogant young guy sitting at the table, and I don't know, he said something, and you spent a good 10 minutes on just him. And in a big crowd, it's funny, and it diffuses some of that tension. But in a small targeted audience like that, there's nowhere for the guy to disappear to. It was just, I don't even know why I'm bringing it up, other than to say, you know what, you handled it really well. But yeah, hecklers, if you're listening to the podcast, know that you run the risk of being the butt of all jokes when you heckle comedians.
I don't remember that. I haven't gotten to that page in my diary yet. I'm sure I'll get there by next week or so. But yeah, I do go hard on people, and sometimes when I review my tapes, I see that I go hard on some people who haven't even heckled me.
You're just mean.
Well, I'm Korean, I'm just blunt. It's in my blood. And so sometimes I just start making fun of a dude just for the way he looks, just for sitting in the front row. And, I've learned my lessons sometimes. Like, I'd rather make fun of a guy who's there with friends or a girlfriend or a wife, because they usually handle it better than a guy who's there by himself. A guy who's there by himself, and I embarrass him publicly in front of a bunch of strangers, they don't take it as well, and they want to, fight.
Have you ever had someone that wanted to fight you, like physically fight you?
I mean, they don't, but I could sense that they wanted to fight me, and that's something I've had my whole life, like just in school, before I started stand-up is, as a girl, I can get away with saying shit to guys, and they can't necessarily punch me and get away with it, unless they're related to me.
Gotcha.
Still raw.
So yeah, so you know how to play the ukulele. You have that one. So do you have the ukulele with you?
Yeah, I have a ukulele, have a guitar, but
so do you have it with you now?
It's not tuned or anything. It's in.
Okay.
Want me to play it?
Kinda. Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically. Hey, do you have it? Can we see it? All right, go put it in the corner. Let's talk about something else. It's like, no, let's play a song. That's what we're asking about.
Well, I don't know. I go through phases. Like I haven't picked up the ukulele. That's why it's out of tune right now because I haven't even played it in a few months. I go through phases. Like right now, like I was on my drum phase, and then now I'm like I got an air fryer, so now I'm like air frying, you know, and I just get like obsessed with one thing for like 2 weeks, and then next week we'll see what I'm obsessed with.
So, if you could smoke a joint, I asked Chris this a couple of weeks ago. If you could smoke with a joint with anyone living or dead, who would it be?
God, it would probably be my grade school band director.
Okay. That's interesting.
I'm sure he doesn't smoke joints. I'm sure he doesn't smoke weed, but I would love to like get high with him, or I would just love to see him, you know, because he had such a big impact on my life. You know, my band director was a very enthusiastic Baptist. So at our school, you know, I went to a public school in Chicago, and so he wasn't allowed to really proselytize. I can't say that word. Evangelize.
Yeah, we got it.
Proselytize. I can't.
We're moving past it. We're good.
That's your small Korean tongue at work.
He wasn't allowed to do that at school on school property, but he found a loophole, and he was like the most amazing band director ever, and he was just a great teacher, a great role model. But then after school, he would like ring the doorbell, and he would go to every student's house and like want to like save them.
Oh.
Right? Bring them to salvation. So, but he was a really great band director, so all the parents liked him because, you know, we like won state competitions. We were like the best band in the state of Illinois. We won awards and trophies. So like the results were there, but then we also had to put up with him being this crazy Baptist guy, right?
Crying as
fuck it up, man. Hey, so have you ever played F, Marry, Kill?
What's that?
Have you ever played F, Marry, Kill?
F, Marry, Kill? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I got a couple names for you. Ready?
Okay.
F, Marry, Kill. Donald Trump.
Kill.
George W. Bush. Joe Exotic. F, Marry, Kill.
I would fuck George Bush, marry Joe Exotic, and well, these aren't great options. You just you know what? And then kill Trump.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. What about you, Chris?
I'm not getting man. We're not doing that. We're not doing that on this pod, Rod. I don't know why we just thought this was. Come on, give me 3 women options at least. Like let me.
Okay, I got you. I got you. Okay. F, Marry, Kill, Chris. Shakira, Jennifer Lopez, or Ariana Grande.
I think I would probably smash J-Lo just because I got to. It's J-Lo. Ariana's kind of crazy, but I don't know what Shakira's talking about most of the time.
You know, we always have to sub her out for some reason. Okay, we're gonna sub Ariana out with Natalie Portman.
I'll kill Natalie Portman and then marry Shakira. Yeah.
Oh. All right.
And I made it a lot clearer. it's like clean that up real quick. Thank you, Rod. Appreciate that. I made it way easier. I was like,
I see where your priorities are, Chris. I respect that.
I smashed J-Lo off rip. I was very quick on that one. Like, you know what my priorities are. It's J-Lo. You got to do J-Lo. But J-Lo's been married like 5 times. I don't want to marry her again. It's like, she obviously is not good at that. So let's just do something
6 times a charm.
No, it's not. Not with me. It's not. Not with me. I don't have enough money to marry J-Lo for real.
Esther and Chris, when you get writer's block, or do you get writer's block, one, how do you handle it if you do?
You know, I think when you reach your writer's block, the best thing to do is like put it aside and go exercise. Get your endorphins running, get a fresh palate, you know, reset your mind because your body and your mind are all connected. So I think that's, you know, do something else for a little bit and then come back.
Yeah. Chris?
I'm pretty much always working out, so I can't use that excuse that Esther had. Like my job is working out, so I don't have that part of it. I think what you said about disconnecting and doing something else, I'll actually do like a small activity around the house. So like I may wash dishes or vacuum or something small that requires almost no thought. You can do on autopilot just for a second, so your brain can almost like decompress. Because usually, if you're doing writer's block, what I've been told by other people, you're usually like pressing too hard. Like you're trying to get to the point so hard, and it's not coming organically and flowing naturally. So if it's not flowing, don't force it. Get away from it, and when you come back, it should flow a little more naturally.
Well, who's been the biggest influence in your career so far, Esther?
You know, I've read a lot of Joan Rivers books and I've learned a lot from her. I never got a chance to meet her, unfortunately, but you know, you could learn a lot from reading, you know, one of your favorite comedians' books. And I just love her, like, no apologies style, and she just goes in hard on people, and I could, you know, admire that. And she's very smart and she has her shit together and she's very ambitious. So I look up to her, I would say, a lot.
You ever feel bad about going in hard on someone or maybe having to apologize or walk something back?
Yeah, I do feel bad sometimes because if it's unwarranted,
like the guy just sitting in the front row, just
right
by himself.
Yeah, I do feel bad, but you know, it's all a trial and error to you know, get the results that you want. And sometimes you're at the wrong place at the wrong time, and that's in the front row of my show.
Hey, let that be a warning. All right.
I heard you were funny.
So any projects that you're working on now that, you know, you want to plug or put out there?
Well, I have my show on YouTube. It's called Korean Teen. And I started it once I realized we're going to be in this for a little bit. So I'm just writing jokes on coronavirus and giving little kind of like, it's like a late night monologue type show. Mm-hmm. It's just 2-minute, 3-minute episodes. And you can watch that on YouTube.
I know when I first saw you, you came on stage, you had a character where you were like the super foreigner who didn't speak the language. And like 2 minutes to your routine, you were like, nah, I speak English. And it fucked the crowd up. They were like, oh, wait, she speaks, because you were doing the hello. And everyone was like, oh, she's a really foreign girl. And I was wondering, do you ever use that like in non-comedy situations?
You know, it's funny. I actually don't ever use that in real life because I just don't think I'm good at it. Like, I don't think I'm good at doing like a Chinese or Korean accent. So, but then that doesn't make sense. Why do I do it on stage then? Like I shouldn't. No, I don't do that in real life. Maybe I should, but I don't know. I guess it's just for the stage.
I just remember seeing it and I was like, that's a dope thing, because again, I'm not Korean or Chinese, nor do I like live in those areas. So I don't even know what a good impression would be. I guess it'd only be bad as someone who's Korean and Chinese, but if I'm from like
Chris,
I don't know.
You live in K-Town, bro.
No, I don't. I live in the valley. I don't live down there, bro. That's why I don't go down there. I'm like, are y'all real or are y'all just doing accents? Like, I don't know what's going on down there.
Well, listen, this was fun. We got to do this again real soon. And if you're tuning in for the first time, catch all of our episodes on Spotify. Speak Miami is the handle. We're on social media at Speak Fridays. But Esther, thank you so much for taking the time. We miss you. We miss you. Can't wait to see you.
Racist coronavirus vow.
I was doing a Conan O'Brien. It wasn't. You say that's not true. Like,
I don't
Come
know
on,
why
Chris.
she fucking bows to me.
I didn't want to be like, like, whatever. You take what you got, all right? Put it in your diary. We'll read about it later on. Time for this.
That's awesome. Also, maybe you can email us some of the outtakes from the diary. If you find anything interesting, we'd love to post that. But yeah, catch all the episodes on Spotify. Speak Miami. We'll see you for the next episode coming out real soon. Guys, thank you again, Chris. One love. Esther.
Thank you so much. It's great to see you guys, even if it's virtually. And I'll see you when this is all over soon.
For sure. Stay well.
Bye, y'all.
Peace.